pusuan mo ako. And we get things from there on our talk about becoming human in an unbecoming world. But this is not, it may sound very philosophical, it may sound very Western, but well, in as much as this is English, it's written in an English language, it may sound really very Western, but we are going to discuss things that make us Filipino. And so, without much ado, we start with me presenting to you three concepts that are very, very important in considering pakikipagkapwa-tao, because I understand this is the thing that I was tasked to develop. So we have three words: loob, kapwa-tao, at utang na loob. So these are things which are usually just simply discussed in academic circles but never reflected on ordinarily by Filipinos, not even being taken into consideration in the classrooms, especially perhaps, but perhaps when things about Filipino are spoken about, siguro pwedeng include ito. Pero generally, our curriculum does not really have these types of things, no? Usually ang mga nagdi-discuss dito are intellectuals, are academicians, thesis advisors, but not really practically being spoken of every day in the classroom. Our education is largely Western. So going back to this is very, very relevant and very important. Before discussing this one seriously, I would like to tell you how I came to develop this theory. When I was a seminarian of Santo Tomas, I looked down on Filipino authors. But sorry for this thing, no? Sorry for this confession, but I really do not appreciate Filipino authors. I would frequent Philippine National Bookstore, yung bookstore na very, very popular when I was a seminarian. In fact, I think it was the only bookstore chain when I was a seminarian. And I don't remember going to the Filipiniana section, not even for once. I would always go to the philosophy section. I would always go to the literature section. I would always go to things that are Western, no, written by Western authors. But I don't remember having gone to the Filipiniana section. Why? Simply because I do not see anything essential, perhaps, at that point in time about Filipino authors or the things that they write. Until I was assigned just before I got ordained to a poor barrio. And that is where my conversion processes came from. I was tasked to head a group of seminarians in as much as I am already months away from my ordination, from my becoming a priest. So I was tasked to head a group of seminarians. Kasi kami mga seminarista every summer, binibigyan kami ng immersion program. Ang tawag namin dyan, apostolate. So we are assigned, a group of seminarians is assigned to a certain poor barrio or whatever, just to experience the life of people. So there I was instructed to head a catechetical program. And so we drew. We sat down, the group of seminarians sat down, and we drew the program for catechesis. And we had, for example, in the morning from 8 to 10, we're going to have catechesis for children. And at around something like immediately after supper in the barrios, they have early supper, something like 7 to 8 or 9 o'clock, the adult catechism. So the program went pretty well for 1 week. So we were enjoying, the children were enjoying the things that we were teaching them in the morning, and then the adult in the evening. The second week came. What happened during the second week? The number of children dwindled. But curiously, dumadami yung mga bata sa gabi. At dahil dumadami sila, umiingay yung ano, kasi nasa open lang kami, open space. So hindi kami nagkakarinigan ng mga tatay at nanay ng mga bata. To the point na as the head of the group, at one point in time I got angry. Sabi ko ganyan, di ho ba sinabi ko sa inyo in the native dialect. Sinabi ko po sa inyo na ang mga bata sa umaga po At kayong mga nakakatanda dito po sa gabi, a brave middle-aged woman stood up and said something which I will never forget in my life. Sabi niya, "Di ho ba, brother, na kung saan ang nandon ang inahing baboy, nandon din ang mga anak." I was stunned and I was not able to speak for quite some time. Sa kadaldalan ko, bigla akong natahimik. Bakit bigla akong natahimik? Kasi suddenly, I felt she was delivering something true and valid. But I thought I never heard that in the classroom. Parang nahimasmasan ako at biglang sinabi sa akin kung sino talaga ako, na hindi ako taga-kanluran, na ako ay taga-silangan. For the first time in my life, I don't exactly know whether I felt the Filipino in me or the Ibanag Itawit in me because I belong to that ethnic group kasi yun ang pagkasabi nung middle-aged woman. Parang naibalik ako sa isang lugar na inaasam-asam ko na unconsciously pero matagal ko nang iniwanan. Something leaped inside of me, but that leaping inside of me made me ashamed before this Barrio Fox. It made me feel na ang layo ko sa kanila. It made me feel na useless yung mga pinag-aralan ko. It made me feel na kapag maging okay akong maging pari at ito yung mga sisilbihan kong tao, kailanganin kong bumalik doon sa mundo nila, doon sa mundo ng kahulugan nila, para maintindihan ko sila at parang maging isang mabuting pari. Pero over and above all, para isang mabuting Pilipino at magiging kapwa nila. That started the painful process of me going inside of me, looking into who I am. As an Ibanag Itawit, and in a generic sense, as a Filipino. That started my journey to things cultural and anthropological. And that's why when I took my MA, I went not to higher theological studies, but to Oriental studies. And when I decided to make a thesis, the thesis, no, for my MA, I decided to delve deep into who the Filipino is. Pero alam nyo, nung time na yon in the 1990s, kakapiranggot yung resources. Nahirapan akong gumawa ng thesis kasi kakapiranggot yung mga sources. At yung mga sources pa na nandun, halos puro foreigners ang sumulat. Pero may naengkwentro akong bagong libro noon na sinulat ng isang Jesuita, sinulat ng isang pari na taga-Ateneo, pero graduate siya ng UST, that really made me want to go on with my research. Kasi napakahusay nun. Number one, isinulat niya sa lengguwaheng Tagalog. Number two, napakalalim nung kanyang pagpapaliwanag patungkol dun sa mga tinatalakay niya. And number three, habang binabasa ko at lumalalim yung binabasa ko, gumaganda at gumaganda ang wikang Tagalog. Nasabi ko sa sarili ko, maintindihan ko lang ang sarili ko kung babalik ako sa lengguwahe ko, kung babalik ako sa wika ko. Kasi natutunan ko sa philosophy of language at saka nung theology nung nasa theology na ako, na nalulungkot pala ang simbahan kapag may nawawalang namamatay na wika sa mundo. Di nyo ba alam na for every 1 hour, ilang lengguwahe ang namamatay? Ilang wika ang namamatay sa buong mundo? Every hour may namamatay na lengguwahe. At sabi ng simbahang Katolika, no, ng Vatican, every now and then that a language dies, a perspective of truth dies. Habang sinasabi ko sa inyo to, tumatayo ang balahibo ko. Kasi dito sa Cagayan, sa amin sa probinsya namin nila Jerome, pinipilit namin buhayin ang mga lokal na wika namin kasi pinapatay na siya ng Tagalog. At lagi nasa isip ko yung nabasa kong yon. When a language dies, a perspective of truth dies also. And can you imagine, when a perspective of truth dies, a realization also dies. Truth is absolute. Truth is not relative. But truth, because it's absolute, cannot really be encapsulated by the mind of man, but it is revealed in perspectives. Kaya akala natin relative ang truth. Kasi iba yung truth na nakikita ng isa, iba ang truth na nakikita ng isa. Yung pala hindi relative ang truth. Absolute ang truth. Pero sa kalawakan niya, hindi siya pwedeng umakma sa masyadong limitado na utak ng tao. Kaya nagpapahiwatig lang siya perspectively. Kaya kunyari, you just imagine, a building, a four-sided building, no, a rectangular building, a big building. Imagine a building in Far Eastern University. That building dwarfs any person who walks through it. Mas malaki ang building na yan. Pero tingnan nyo, di ba isang perspective lang nakikita ninyo? Kung nasa harap ka ng building na yan, ng napakalaking building na yan, yung harap lang na perspective ang nakikita mo. Kung nasa side ka dito sa left, yun lang ang nakikita mo. Kung nasa perspective ka ng right, yun lang nakikita mo. Kung nandun ka sa likod, yun lang nakikita mo. Imposible na hindi na nakikita mo ang kabuuan yan. Yung walang yung walang technological na daya, yung totoo lang sinasabi ko. Isang perspective lang yan ang nakikita natin. So, kung ang truth ay four-sided siya, can you imagine? Only a force of that truth can be known by us. Because what is seen by us in front is not seen by those who are in the sides, much less by those who is at the back of that big building. Truth is just like that building. It's so huge, but the finitude of the human mind cannot really encapsulate that. That truth comes into sporadically by what we call perspectives. So the more and perspectives are expressed through languages. Through languages. Kaya alam nyo, nung gumagawa na ako ng mga studies ko, nagagalit ako kapag tinatranslate ang kapwa-tao ng fellow men. Because the English language is so poor to translate the depths of the word kapwa. It's so originally Filipino that it can never be encapsulated by it. I don't know if Jerome still remembers, but I'm so passionate when I explain to them na never translate kapwa into fellow man, because kapwa is an original Filipino root word. The moment you do that, you are telling me unconsciously that English is a superior language than us. Lumalabas yung pagkakolonyal natin kapag ginagawa natin yon, na anything English is better than anything Filipino and better than anything local, na hanggang ngayon nakakalungkot kasi kailangan lahat dapat i-translate. No, Father Alejo is correct. There are a lot of words in our language, not only Tagalog, but other local languages that are original, that speak of a perspective of truth that can never be seen by any other foreign language. And that's why there is a need to go back into them, discover the cornucopic realities that are being unraveled by that only Filipinos can perceive. Masyado tayong kinain ng Koreano. Masyado tayong kinain bago ang Koreano ng mga Mexican novela. At ngayon, kinakain tayo ng Thai BL series. Kailan kaya lalabas ang pagka-Pilipino natin? Parang buong buhay ko, parang ginagawa ng Pilipino, ibinebenta niya ang kaluluwa niya dahil pinagkakaitan siya ng pagkagusto kung sino siya. Sabi nga ng isang American author, the Filipino wants to be anything else except becoming Filipino. He wants to be American, he wants to be Spanish, and now he wants to be Korean, except becoming a Filipino. But becoming a Filipino means going back to our languages and see what unique truths these languages yield to us. And I gear towards these three beautiful original root words: loob, kapwa-tao, at utang na loob. Pero bago niyan, ito yung introduction natin. O, di ba? Kita nyo yan. Yan ang lengguwahe ng mga bata ngayon. Pag nagpipicture tayo, nakaganyan tayo. Kaya ganyan. Tingnan nyo, kayang-kaya nang gawin ng isang tao yan. Ganyan na kakondisyonado ang mga kabataan ngayon sa things foreign. They love foreign things more than what is yielded to them. Alam niyo kung paano sumikat ang Korean pop? Kasi nakialam ang Ministry of Education ng Korea. Nakita nila ang potentiality nito para ipalaganap ang Korean culture kasama ng Arirang Channel. And so kita mo, kahit sa Scandinavian countries, the Scandinavian people go gaga over Korean things. But why is the world so caught up with Korean things? Because everything that you see Korean is uniquely Korean. Kaya nga nakakapture nila ang mundo kasi wala yon sa kultura nila. Opposite, di ba, ang Pilipino? Masyado tayong imitators. And sometimes we are better than the original. So ano yung makukuha ng mundo sa atin kung lagi tayong nanggagaya? Hindi natin pinakikita kung ano yung kabuuan natin bilang mga Pilipino. We want to be like the Koreans who have conquered the world. We go back to who we really are, to showing how uniquely we are as a race. And people, the whole world, is going to recognize us. Perhaps ang dami-daming nagbubuli sa atin kasi hindi natin mahal ang sarili natin. Pero kapag mahal natin ang sarili natin, alam natin ipaglaban yan sa mga taong nambubuli sa atin. Biro nyo, there was a time, ultimo ang Taiwan na napakaliit, kayang-kaya niya tayong ibuli. Di ba? Kasi nga, paano maipaglaban ang mga bagay-bagay na hindi mo kilala? At kung sa edukasyon natin hindi pinapakilala ito sa atin kung sino tayo bilang mga Pilipino, how would you expect young Filipinos to be very proud about themselves? Sa ngayon, parang Koreano na sila. May estudyante ko rito, minsan sinita ko sila, pating hairstyle nila, parang silang mga Koreano. Kailan lalabas ang pagiging Pilipino natin? Babalikan muna natin at mamahalin muna natin ang mga wika natin. Kaya tama si Jose Rizal, ang hindi marunong magmahal ng sariling wika ay parang isang malansang isda. See? So bakit ako nagsisimula rito? Kasi hindi ito yung konsepto nating Pilipino, culturally speaking. Hindi yung pang-isahan ganyan lang. Pero i-explain ko to sa pamamagitan ng Jewish culture. Father, bakit Jewish culture? Because geographically, Israel is counted in the ancient world as Asia, as part of Asia. At malalaman natin ngayon bakit ganun ang simulain ko. So tingnan natin. Balik tayo dito sa Deuteronomy. Nasabi ko na kanina na sana kapag nagsalita ako tungkol sa Bible o sa Old Testament o kaya may mga nakikita kayo rito, it's not because I'm a priest. I want you to know that the Jewish people, yung relihiyon ng Jewish people ay masyadong angklado sa kanilang kultura. Hindi mo pwedeng ihiwala yung pananampalataya nila sa kanilang kultura. Iba sa Pilipinas. Masyadong malayo yung pananampalataya natin sa kultura natin. Kaya siguro ganito ang pananampalataya natin. Nagsisimba tayo, nagwo-worship tayo kung hindi ikaw ay Katoliko, kung ikaw ay hindi Katoliko sa simbahan mo. No? Pero hindi lumalabas yung pagka-Pilipino. Hindi katulad ng mga Hudyo na masyadong angklado yon na kapag sinabi mong Jew, religion at culture kaagad ang lumalabas doon. Kaya masarap na balikan ito, no? For the non-Catholics who are here, at least siguro madadagdagan ang knowledge nyo tungkol sa Christianity o kaya sa Judaism. Pero for the Catholics who are here, at least culturally madadagdagan yung knowledge ninyo about yung pananampalataya natin. So let's start with Deuteronomy 6:4-9. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. This is the famous prayer, the Shema Israel, that the Jew is demanded to pray every morning when he wakes up. Tingnan natin to, may mga 10 na mga bagay na nandito. Instruction ni Yahweh. Ayan. With all your heart means be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. It means to say, when you love God, you think of Him 24 hours a day. Yan o, lie down, get up, when you walk, when you sit. So everything that you do, loving God with all your heart means thinking about Him 24 hours a day. Yan ang sinasabi ng Diyos sa kanyang bayang Israel. Deuteronomy 6:4-9. Yan ang ibig sabihin ng with all your heart. Eh siguro ganyan din naman tayo kapag tayo ay nagmamahal, di ba, na in love. Kahit magkalayo kayo, isip mo pa rin nandun sa minamahal mo, ano na kayong ginagawa niya ngayon, no? Kaya minsan nagte-text na tayo na, anong ginagawa mo na? O di ba ganyan, biglang napaisip ka, kumain ka na ba? So every now and then that we text a beloved one, it means to say first and foremost, before we ever texted or chatted with that beloved, it means to say, pumasok siya sa isip natin. Kasi ganun ang magmahal. Ang magmahal 24 hours a day. At yun ang gusto ni Yahweh na gagawin ng kanyang sambayan ng Israel nung nagsimula siyang makipagrelasyon sa kanila. Nga lang nakakalungkot sa English language, balik tayo sa lengguwahe, yung with all your heart na yan, hindi niya akma kung ano yung ibig sabihin sa Hebrew, sa Jewish language. Doon mo kapag ikaw ay lover of languages, makikita mo how poor the English language is. When I was teaching Latin, no, sa mga high schoolers dito, lagi ang bait ko sa kanila is when you study the Latin language, you know 60% of the English language without going to the dictionary. Because 60 to 65% of the English words come from the Latin language. The rest comes from the daughters of Latin, like Spanish, French, Italian, Portuguese. Ito sa case na to, yung with all your heart. Kapag sinabi ba ng English language na with all your heart, yun na bang ibig sabihin ni Yahweh? Tingnan natin. Ayan, si Shema Yisrael. Yahweh Elohinu, Yahweh Echad. Yan ang first lines nung Hear, O Israel, the Lord is God, the Lord is one. Yung prayer na sinasabi ko sa inyo. Pero para maintindihan natin ang konteksto nito, balik tayo dito. Yung with all your heart. Anong ibig sabihin ng with all your heart? Ito ang letter L sa Hebrew language. Ang tawag diyan ay lamed. Ito yung second, yung ano nasa baba na letter, yan ang bes, yan ang letter B. Bakit may number 2 doon? Kasi nung umnong panahon wala pang mga numbers. In ancient cultures, we have what we call gematria. Gematria is when alphabets are equivalent to numbers. And so here, we have lamed, the letter L. But here, the letter B is not used as a letter, but it's used as a number. 2. So A, B. So number 2 siya. Yun ang gematria, the ancient science of gematria. When letters are equivalent to numbers. So anong ibig sabihin yan? Dalawang letter L ang ibig sabihin yan. So, pagkasulat niyan, yan, lebab. Father, bakit merong mga vowels na nasa baba? Kasi it was only in the 7th century, if I'm not mistaken, that the vowels were given the Hebrew alphabets, because generally the Hebrew alphabet does not have any vowel, only consonants. And so kapag isusulat natin yan in the Roman way of writing things, you have letter L there and you have B, B, dalawang B. So, ang heart sa Hebrew ay leb, L-E-B, no? Kapag pronounce natin in the Roman way. And so we notice that the Jewish heart is composed of two lameds, but these lameds are not only two, they are connected through facing each other. Ayan. Isang trivia lang po. The letter L is yung pinakagitna na letter sa Hebrew alphabet. Siya yung pinakagitna. The central letter. Siya din yung pinakamataas. Nung tinuturuan kami magsulat ng Hebrew when I was taking up biblical studies in Spain, kailangan magpapas siya dun sa line, yung ulo niya. Siya lang yung letra na nagpapas through doon sa linya ng pagkasulat. Otherwise, lahat nandun sa loob. Kung dalawang linya yan, no? Lahat ng letters niya nasa loob. Siya lang yung lumalampas doon. So, in as much as it is the center, the Jewish people are trying to tell us that the heart is the center of man. But how is the heart produced? The heart is produced not simply by a single lamed, hindi pwedeng ganyan, hindi pwedeng, paano ba yon, yung ganon, no? Na ginagawa ng isang tao lang, pero dalawang lamed na magkaharap. Pero tingnan niyo yung forma ng lamed niya. Parang dalawang tao, yung letter L ng Hebrew, dalawang tao na magkaharap. See? Dalawang tao na magkaharap. Yan ang puso sa Jewish tradition. But the heart in the Jewish tradition ay hindi lang yung heart na ibig sabihin sa English language. It can mean the inner man, it can mean the mind, it can mean the will, the heart, understanding, inner part, memory, reflection, seat of appetite, seat of emotions and passions, seat of courage. In just one word, the leb is the Jewish person, yung kabuuan niya. So kapag translate therefore, kaya hirap na hirap ang English na mag-translate ng leb sa English. Kaya tingnan mo, ang dami-dami yung sinasabi doon. Love God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your strength. Ang ibig sabihin niyan lang sa Jew ay leb. Lahat nun. Kasi ibig sabihin nun, mahalin mo ako sa iyong kabuuan. Kapag ni-literal translate mo yun, mahalin mo ako sa puso or whatever, no? But that does not capture what the leb is all about. Kasi the leb is yung buong tao. Mahalin mo ako sa pag-iisip mo, sa pakiramdam mo, sa paggawa mo. Mahalin mo ako sa kabuuan mo. Mahalin mo ako sa kabuuan mo. So leb therefore is the seat of the physical organism. It is the seat of all moral functions. It is the seat of the intellect and the will. It is the seat of all spiritual functions. The leb is the person in his totality. Yung kabuuan niya. Pero, the person in his totality is not complete. The Jews always think that we are not alone. Kaya pag bumalik tayo sa libro ng Genesis, God created the woman out of the man. Kasi sabi niya, it is not good for man to be alone. Man is not a complete being. He may be a total person, but he is not a complete being. That's why, if we go to the book of the Song of Songs, ito yung nag-capture kung anong ibig sabihin ng leb sa Old Testament. I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. It means to say, remove the other person, my heart is not complete. When I sin, I turn back myself and we, both of us, become incomplete. I can only be complete when I turn around and get reconciled with the other person whom I have wronged. Kaya nagsimula ako dun sa Korean concept ng heart kasi masyadong individualistic yon. O kaya yung ganon. Yung lahat, yung arm heart, yung finger heart, o kaya yung hand heart na alam ng mga tao ngayon sa media, kayang-kayang gawin ng isang tao yon. Pero sa isang Hudyo, ito yung isang kamay, ito yung isang kamay. Kasi I cannot exist without you. My heart may constitute my personality, but my heart is incomplete without you. Napakalalim ng ibig sabihin ng heart sa Jewish culture. Kaya they have the months of Elul. Oh, Elul yan na. Baka mamaya pwede nating pronounce ang ulol, no? So huwag tayong magkamali diyan. The Jews celebrate the months of Elul. What is the months of Elul? The month of Elul is the month of love. It's a 30-day thing, parang Valentine's Day nila pero parang month sa kanila. Kumbaga sa Christian tradition, ito yung Lenten season. Ito yung panahon na magbalik loob lahat ang mga tao sa bawat isa at sa pagbabalik loob nila sa bawat isa, nagbabalik loob din sila sa Diyos. So it's both vertical to God and it means also horizontal to fellow men. So therefore, this is the Jewish necklace and this is the Jewish heart. Yan ang usually ang mga gamit. Sa atin yung cross, ang necklace natin. Sa mga Hudyo, yan usually yung gamit nila. Di ba? Ang cute, no? Tingnan ninyo. Hindi basta-basta heart. Parang dalawang tao na magkahawak kamay, ang mga paa nila nag-join together. But it's actually just the letter L, Lamed of the Hebrew alphabet. So the month of Elul teaches us something about the nature of men. That while we feel independent from the other, it is always necessary to recognize the fact that we can never be complete without the other. That's why, kung ito yung linya nung writing pad, kailangan lumabas siya sa sarili niya to signify philosophically that the Jews believe that my heart is not made for me alone, but my heart is made for the other. I have to extend my heart over the boundary in order to reach the other. See what going back to languages is all about. Because the languages are expressions, manifestations, show windows of what a race, of how a race thinks, of how a race feels, of how a race does things. So hindi lang dapat iniisnab ang mga lengguwahe natin. Bagkus balikan natin doon kasi doon natin nakikita kung ano ang nasa loob ng tao. Anong nasa kanyang utak, anong nasa kanyang puso, at ano. Tingnan to. A simple analysis of the Leb brings to us a cornucopia of realizations about how the Jewish people conceive man. And when you go to philosophy, these are the things that Jewish philosophers have philosophized on, like Levinas, like Martin Buber. Kaya sa mga Jewish philosophers, the other is very, very important. They reflect on what the Bible says, that while we feel independent from the other, it is always necessary to recognize the fact that we can never be complete without the other. And so, here you have the Hebrew form, Ani Lidodi Vidodili, is I am to my beloved. Here, the first one, the left, and my beloved is to me. No wonder God always manifested himself as the bridegroom of his people. And in the Catholic Church, the bridegroom of the church. It's always in a love relationship that Yahweh manifested himself to his people. So this is from the book of the Song of Songs 6:3. I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. A question is asked in ancient literature, Jewish literature. How can you describe God? And the reply is Yachid, which means absolute unity. I bring you back to the Gospel of John. When you go to the Gospel of John, Jesus has a prayer there that is very, very long before he agonizes in the Garden of Gethsemane. What does that speak about? It does not speak about love. It does not speak about forgiveness. It does not speak about anything else. That only recorded very long prayer of Jesus speaks about unity. That they may be one, Father, as you and I are one. It's a beautiful thing to realize that Jesus was praying for his disciples. And when you read that text, he was also praying for the followers of his disciples, for the followers of the followers of his disciples, for the followers of the followers of the followers of the disciples, until finally you realize that prayer of Jesus was praying for us, for all of us, that we may have unity with one another. Absolute unity, because absolute unity is what describes God. Yaqid. You see, how can you describe God? The reply is Yaqid, absolute unity. And so when we go back to this one, therefore, Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Elohenu, Yahweh Echad, it means in English, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. What does that mean? See, it means unity. Unity. There is unity in the Godhead, but when one believes that there is unity in the Godhead, and everyone believes in the book of Genesis that everyone is an image and likeness of God, therefore unity is possible for every human being. Because as I have God, because I'm made in the image and likeness of God, when I see another person in front of me, I also see the image of God from where we come from. Unity is most possible. This is the most beautiful part of the Old Testament belief. God is one, and all of us can also be one. See? And that is why this is an ancient Hebraic melody that is believed to have been also sung by Jesus when he was alive. See, Hinematov tumanaim Shevet achim gam yachad, hinei ma tov umanaim. Shevet achim gam yachad, hinei ma tov, hinei ma tov. La 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 la. In unity we dwell in unity. La 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 la. The best dancers I have seen in my life are not the Black Americans. The best dancers are the Jewish people. This is an example of their song. Very short. They begin very slowly. So when I was in Israel, I was observing them, no? In every gathering, they would start slowly, and then later on, pabilis ng pabilis yan, pabilis ng pabilis, tapos simula na sila magtatayo, tapos mamaya isasayaw na nila yan. Behold how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell together. Behold how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell together. In unity we dwell in unity. And that is how they sing. That is how they celebrate their brotherhood under just one God. The oneness of God is reflected in the unity of the people of Israel. See? And it all starts with the concept of lend. For the Israelite, unity with God and the fellow man is best manifested only through the highest fulfillment of God's law. And that is why we say here, yung sinabi sa Deuteronomy 6:3, wear them in your hand. Yan. Tie them as symbols on your hands. Ayan. And bind them on your heads. Okay? Bind them on your heads. So, ito yung nakikita ninyong mga pariseyo. So, nandun yung law sa ulo nila, hindi lang sa ulo nila, itong tawag dito sa New Testament phylacteries. So literally, you can imagine the Pharisee literally carrying the law in his head and in his hand. Ang nakakalungkot, nung tumagal ng tumagal, ang napakaganda sanang pinagsimulan ng concept na Pharisayim. Pharisayim means in Hebrew, the pure ones, the clean ones. Ibig sabihin nun, they are the observers of God's law. Nangyari nun, nag-concentrate sila sa law at nakalimutan nila kung ano ang kahulugan ng law. And that is love God and love fellow men. Nag-concentrate sila sa law, yun yung time na sinita sila ni Jesus. Kasi wala na silang Diyos at nawala ang kapwa-tao nila. And that is how the word Pharisee came into being in our idiomatic expression as English-speaking people. When we begin to say a person is Pharisaic, he has a Pharisaic attitude, parang hindi magkatugma, bigot siya, kung ano yung sinasabi niya at kung ano ang sinasabuhay niya. Dito nagsimula yon. Pero pag titingnan natin ang origin ng mga Pharisees, napakaganda sana niyan. Kasi as an expression of their love for God and their fellow men, they fulfill the law by carrying it in their hands and in their hands. But along the way, the interpretation became pejorative. So that was how it got developed. And in Jesus' time, ito na yon. They were more concentrating on the law rather on what the law is all about. That it is about relationship with God and relationship with fellow men. Nakalimutan nila ang Diyos, nakalimutan nila ang kapwa-tao. So that is why in Matthew 27:19, we hear from here, while Pilate was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent a word to him, "Have nothing to do with that just man, for I have suffered much over him today in a dream." Jesus was called that just man. In the New Testament, ang isa pa na tinawag na just man ay si Joseph, ang tatay niya. What is the just man in the Bible? Ito kasi interchangeable to. Just, upright, innocent, righteous. These are interchangeable words. Iisa lang ang ibig sabihin yan. Pag sinabi nating just ba, ito ba yung giving each other's due? O may kakaibang definition ang Old Testament sa just? Ito ang sasabihin natin. Is totally Israelitic in concept, not easily understood by us because it is definitely very different from our common understanding of the term, especially today. Perhaps failure to understand its real meaning in the Israelitic context is the reason why the Old Testament religion is viewed as legalistic. So what is justice in the Old Testament? It is not a behavior that is in accordance with an ethical, legal, psychological, religious, or spiritual norm. It is not even a conduct that is dictated by human or divine nature. It is not even an action appropriate to the attainment of a specific goal. It is never a ministry to one's fellow men. So therefore, Father, how does a Jew conceive justice? Justice is the fulfillment of the demands of a relationship, whether that relationship be with men or with God. Which means to say that if this is a square, if you are outside of the square, you are not demanded to fulfill the demands of the relationship. Nasa labas ka ng square eh. Pero the moment na pumasok ka dun sa square na yon, patay kang bata ka. You have to fulfill the demands of the relationship. Kaya magandang ibalik ito mga kapatid. Magandang ibalik ito kasi kung minsan nakakaligtaan natin ito sa relasyon. Hindi lang pang Hudyo ito. Parang meron siyang sinasabi patungkol sa pagkatao ng tao at ang mga ugnayan at relasyon ng tao. Kasi ang makamundong tao ngayon, nakakaligtaan niya ito. Nakakaligtaan niya na pumasok siya dun sa circle na yon at once na pumasok ka sa circle na yon, it's the circle now of relationship that demands over both of you. It is not a demand of me towards the beloved or the beloved making a demand on me, but it's already the circle of relationship that makes its full demands on me. Kaya therefore, di ba sabi natin, kung hindi ka pa sure, wag kang magsabi ng I love you. Kasi the moment na nagsabi ka na ng I love you, patay kang bata ka. You're entering into an exclusive relationship. And when you are entering into exclusive relationship, you are giving the power to the beloved. What power? to hurt you. And therefore, hindi lang hurting, pero also jealousy. Kaya the moment nag-I love you-han na kayo, it's no longer the two of you taking over the relationship, but a hovering relationship that demands on you. Ikaw ay para dito at ikaw rin ay para sa kanya. Kaya yung love na yon, yung expression ng I love you na yon, begins unconsciously to give the lover and the beloved the power to be jealous, the power to be possessive, and the power to hurt and be hurt. But until you don't give that, you do not know where you lie. You are not entering into the circle or square of relationship. That's why the fulfillment of the demands of the relationship is not very clear. But here in the Old Testament, the moment God says, I love you to man, and man responds, I love you to God, they both enter into the square of relationship, and it is called upon by that relationship that both of them fulfill the demands of the relationship. And therefore, each of these relationships brings with it specific demands, the fulfillment of which constitutes justice. There is no norm of justice outside of the relationship itself. But the moment you begin to enter into that relationship, you fulfilling the demands of that relationship is what the Old Testament calls justice. And therefore, when God or man fulfills the conditions imposed upon him by the relationship, he is, in Old Testament terms, just or righteous. When I fulfill the demands of a relationship, I am called just, and therefore I am called righteous. When Joseph began to love God, Joseph also says he begins to love his fellow men. So why? Because God and fellow men are correlatives. Remember, man is made in the image and likeness of God. So when you begin to love God, you also naturally begin to love images of God. And that image is in my fellow men. Kaya sabi ni St. James sa kanyang libro, anyone who says he loves God, but he does not love his fellow man, is a liar. Because when I say I love God, naturally I should love my fellow man. That is the Jewish concept. Because my fellow man has also a spark of God in him. See? But the opposite does not happen. Love of neighbor does not immediately lead to love of God. There are a lot, I know, I have friends who are not believers of God, but they are very good. They love their fellow men. So what do I mean to say? Loving of neighbor does not logically lead to love of God. In the same manner na kapag nabaha sa Espanya, dun sa floor, no? Yung baha na yun hanggang sa first floor lang. Walang kapasidad yung tubig na umakyat dun sa second floor. Pero ito, baliktarin natin. Love of God naturally leads to love of neighbor. Kapag nabasa yung third floor, nabaha yung third floor, walang pupunta ng tubig kundi bababa sa second floor at bababa sa first floor. Love of God naturally leads to love of man, but love of man does not naturally lead to love of neighbor. Example, the atheistic philanthropists that we have all over the world. They can be good. You see? So, but here now, justice demands that when I begin to say I love God, naturally, I begin to love my fellow men. And so here is an ideogram of God. You have their justice. I am the son of Abraham. And then you have there the other that is also justice. I am my brother's keeper. But what is the law that is to be fulfilled? Love of God above all. But that love of God should not stop there. It should naturally lead one to the love of neighbor. These two are correlatives. They can never be separated. Next time, be careful to say, when you say, if you're a Christian, if you're a Catholic, next time, be careful when you say, I love God. Because that means to say, you must also manifest that love in the love of neighbor. Hindi lang yung mag-heart ka doon sa pinost doon na ang daming nabaha, ang daming na earthquake, ang daming sinira ng ganito, tapos mag-heart ka lang doon na wala ka namang concrete na ginagawa. Sa Facebook ka lang nag-heart, no? Hindi yun ang ibig sabihin nun. Gumawa ka ng konkreto na hakbang. Kung sinasabi mong Katoliko ka, Kristiyano ka, nagsisimba ka, nagsasamba ka every Saturday, every Thursday, every Sunday, pero wala kang ginagawa sa kapwa-tao mo, huwad ka. Fake ka sa pananampalataya mo. Hindi totoo 'yan. Ang sabi ni St. James sa kanyang letter sa New Testament, you claim to love God, but you do not love your neighbor, you are a liar. You are a liar. So why? Because just as I am God's image, so is the other two. We reflect the God who made us. What are these pictures about? This is President Quezon welcoming Jews in 1938. What was something historical that happened in 1938? Hitler started to persecute the Jews. So alam natin lahat yung Holocaust na ginawa niya, no? Yung 6 million Jews na pinatay niya. So all around the world during that time, the Jews were persecuted simply because the world which has now become Christian, sabi nila, dahil pinatay nila si Jesus. So may mga Kristiyano na naging very extreme ang ano nila, yung hatred nila sa mga Hudyo, kaya pinatay nila yung mga Hudyo. So all around the globe during that time, the Jews were persecuted. Isa lang ang tumanggap sa kanila, Pilipinas. This is not known in history, but I'm going to take my springboard from here, connecting the dots. Anong meron sa Pilipino na tinanggap niyang mga Hudyo? Anong meron sa Pilipino na wala doon sa mga hindi tumanggap sa mga Hudyo? Ano ang meron kay President Manuel L. Quezon? Bakit siya hinusgahan ng mundo noon? Bakit daw niya tinanggap ang mga Hudyo na noong kapanahunan na yon, ang tingin sa mga Hudyo ay mga komunista? That's why they are persecuted. But look at this one. This was written in 2014. This is one of the Jews na siguro 4 years old pa lang yata siya nung nakatakas sila kay Hitler at napunta sila dito. Buhay pa siya nung 2014 at sinulat niya to. Ang tawag niya sa policy is Open Heart Policy of Manuel L. Quezon. Ganda, no? Open Heart Policy. Very Jewish ang concept niya. Open Heart Policy. The Jewish woman is grateful. Pero ito ang mas maganda na tanawin, balik tanawin, na noong 2018, 80 years after President Manuel L. Quezon admitted Jews to the country, escaping from Hitler's Holocaust in 1938, merong ginawang movie. Hindi Pilipino ang gumawa ng movie. Ayan, no? Directed by Matthew Rosen. Si Matthew Rosen ay isang American Jew na British Jew, I'm not very sure now kung American Jew ba siya or British Jew na nakatira sa UK who decided to come over to the Philippines in the 1980s, finally residing here and marrying a Filipina. Tapos, nagulat siya isang araw, itong Filipina na ito, biglang kumanta siya. Kumanta siya ng ano, Hava, nagilahava, nagilahava, nagilava, mesmehach. That song is a national song in Israel. Nagulat si Matthew Rosen bakit alam ng kanyang asawang Pilipina. At nung bumisita sila sa locality ng kanyang asawa, alam ng mga bata ang mga kanta na to. That started him being curious about it. But when he was interviewed, nalungkot siya dahil walang historical resources sa Philippines na nagsasabi tungkol dito sa napakahalaga sana na momento sa buhay ng Pilipinas. No one touched on this topic of Manuel L. Quezon accepting thousands of Jews to the Philippines as refugees. So anong ginawa niya? Naghanap siya, nakakita siya ng mga resources sa Britain, tapos nakahanap pa rin siya ng mga buhay ng mga Hudyo na kasama doon sa Great Escape from Germany and Austria away from Hitler. At yun nagsimula siya mag-interview. Some of them still resided in the Philippines, others in America. So this move marked out the Philippines as the only country which accepted the Jews as one survivor quips and an open heart policy for her people. I don't know if some of you have watched this, but I encourage you to watch this because I think this is one of the greatest moments in Philippine history na hindi na-highlight sa atin, na pinalalabas niya kung ano ang totoong Pilipino sa atin. Kasi yung totoong Pilipino na yun, sabi nung philosopher na si Ramon Reyes, 3 beses lang daw lumabas. Ay, 2 beses lang lumabas. Noong 1970s niya sinulat ito. Number 1, noong 1898 daw, during the Great Philippine Revolution, nung humiwalay ang Pilipino sa pamamagitan ni Bonifacio, ang mga Indios, wala pang Pilipinas noon, ang Indios sa mga Espanyol. Ang number 2, medyo hazy ito kasi hindi ko na finalo up kung ano itong historical account na to, about raw materials in the 1940s or 1960s yata, na tumayo ang mga Pilipino bilang isang nasyon. Sabi niya, but there is a third aspect, sabi niya, writing in the 1970s. Sabi niya, suspetsa ko, sabi ni Ramon Reyes, kayang bumalik ang pagka-Pilipino to o gisingin ang pagka-Pilipino ng Pilipino na to sa pamamagitan ng relihiyon. At yun ay nakita noong 1986 sa EDSA Revolution. Yun pa lang ang pangatlo na lumabas ang pagka-Pilipino ng Pilipino. Alam nyo, nakakalungkot kasi 15 years after, 2001 yata yun, binigyan ng Pilipinas, the first time ever, na binigyan ng isang buong bansa ng award, the Peace Award coming from the Nobel Peace Laureates Foundation. Ang Nobel Peace Laureates Foundation or award, ito yung ang nagko-compose nito ay lahat ng mga winners ng Nobel Peace Award. Yung grupo nila, they chose the Philippines. The first time they chose a nation or a country, because it's usually given to an individual lang ito, yung Nobel Peace Laureate Award. The first time after how many years, binigyan nila ang isang nasyon, ang Pilipinas noon. Because of the contribution to the world about non-violence. No blood has been shed, sabi nung French president nila na pumunta sa Pilipinas. Pero alam niyo yung mas nakakalungkot? Nabasa ko lang yon sa isang newspaper sa kalagitnaan at maliit lang na portion. Ang kasabay nung tandang-tanda ko, ang headline ng newspaper sa Pilipinas noon ay yung Mythical Five ng US team na papunta sa Olympics. Ganong kakolonyal ang mentalidad natin. Yung mga great achievements natin, hindi natin sineselebrate. Tulad nung nanalo ang Bayanihan Dance Troupe, the only dance troupe in the world na twice na nanalo, no? Doon sa prestigious na oldest dance competition in the world. Ganon din yung UST Choir nung nanalo sila doon sa pinaka-prestigious na na yung Gofflen yatang tawag doon. At marami pang iba, mas kilala pa natin sila Pacquiao, mga ganyan. Pero yung mga natin, yung magaganda nating achievements, di natin sineselebrate. Parang kinahihiya natin ang magiging Pilipino natin. Nung nasa Amerika ako, ultimo yung taxi driver, kilala niya si Lea Salonga. Sabi niya sa akin, "Do you know? Do you want I will bring you to the apartment of Lea Salonga?" Sabi, "Oh, you know Lea Salonga? Yeah, the great Filipina singer." Kilala tayo sa abroad bilang mga Pilipino except sa bansa natin. At ito parang hindi masyadong na-promote ang film na 'to. Kita nyo? Open heart policy. Why am I making this one as a bridge of our discussion with the Jewish concept of leb, the heart, with what I'm about to say? Kasi dito natin makikita at ito ang kasagutan. Bakit sa punto na walang tumatanggap ng mga inaapi, Pilipinas ang tumanggap? Anong pinagkaiba nito dito sa news na ito? Ito ay si Special Police Officer 3, Erlinda Gagawin. The policewoman who carried an old woman. May nakita lang siyang old woman doon sa daan. Di naman niya kilala. Bagong ligo siya. Pero sabi niya, "Nay, saan po kayo pupunta?" "Anak, wala po akong kasama. Yung anak ko, hinihintay ko pa. Pero pupunta ako sa doktor ko." Katatapos ng bagyo nun. Katatapos niyang naligo. Pero kita nyo, tinanggal niya ang shoes niya. Naturally, yan ang Pilipino sa ordinary na buhay. Hindi niya kilala, pero tinutulungan pa rin niya. See? Nung isang time na napakalakas ng bagyo, hindi ko na maalala kung anong bagyo sa Manila na yon. Tinanong yung isang tao, sabi niya ni Corina Sanchez, sabi niya, "Oh, ikaw pala yung bayani kung paano sinave yung yung buntis na babae, tsaka yung dalawa niyang anak." Sabi niya ganun, from the island, tapos imagine yung UST, may island doon, tapos baha na yan, tapos tinransport niya yung mag-iina from this island, basang-basa na, going to the other end. Sabi niya, "So kilala mo ba siya?" Sabi niya gano'n ni Corina Sanchez, sabi niya, "Hindi po." Bakit mo siya tinulungan? Kawawa naman po siya eh. Tao din siya. Ah, tao din siya. Simpleng salita yon ng isang Pilipino, pero doon natin huhugutin kung sino ang Pilipino. Tao lang siya. Kapag nag-away ang isang driver ng jeepney at ng driver ng SUV at nagsalpukan yan, lalabas din yung driver ng jeepney at sasabihin niya, "Hindi porke maganda ang sasakyan mo, na pwede mo akong api-apihin. Parehas lang tayong tao." I'm giving you a hint now that for the Filipino, yung mga antas, yung mga social status na yan, wala siyang pakialam dyan. Pareho lang tayong tao. Yan ang kasabihan niya. Yung pagkamayaman, yung pagkamahirap, pagkaedukado, walang education, wala yan. Kasi sa ang kabuuan yan, parehas tayong tao. Parang sinasabi mo na blackbird o whitebird yan, but at the end of the day, parehas lang ibon yan. Magkaiba lang yung kulay niyan. So, merong malalim sa Pilipino na hindi na emphasize sa ating edukasyon. Yan. Pero nakikita natin pa rin yan sa ordinary na pamumuhay ng tao. Sa pang-international din, nakikita yan. Ayan, tingnan nyo. Naging viral itong barbero na to. Sino ba itong barbero na to? Ito ay si Mark Bustos. Siya ay isang professional hairstylist at an upscale salon, 3 Square Studio in New York. But every Sunday he sees to it that he gives free services doon sa mga street people. Yan, no? Parehas din ang dialogue niya. Nung tinatanong siya kung kilala niya ba ang mga yan, sabi niya, hindi naman niya kilala. Pero yung dalisay niya lang puso ang nagsasabi sa kanya na tulungan niya itong mga, at least hindi niya man matulungan sa pera, at least mapalinis niya yung itsura ng mga street people na ito. Yan si Mark Bustos. These are ordinary things. So I want you to begin to think now na parang may hidwaan ang natututunan ng mga bata sa eskwelahan at yung mga ordinaryo na nangyayari sa buhay natin. Parang merong big gap. Saan kaya yung big gap na yon? Dahil kaya ang edukasyon natin ay masyadong makakanluranin? Dahil kaya ang edukasyon natin hindi masyadong natututukan kung tinuturo kung sino ba talaga tayo bilang mga Pilipino. Kaya siguro mga kabataan ngayon kung saan na lang sila humuhugot ng kanilang mga identidad sa kapanahunan natin sa mga Koreano. Eto, nakilala din ang Philippine soldiers internationally. A unique mix of their internationally renowned friendliness and battlefield experiences. Parang may nabasa ako noon, I'm not very sure now, pero number 2 sa pinakamagaling ang ating mga Scout Rangers. Believe na believe ang ang buong mundo sa kanila. Pero bakit kaya yung belief na yon hindi na isasalin sa pagsilbi dito sa ating bansa? May kulang siguro, no, sa edukasyon natin. Bakit ito kilalang kilala? Pia Wurtzbach, 2015 pa yan nanalo. Pero hanggang ngayon, karakter pa rin siya sa Miss Universe organization, no? Itong si Megan Yang. Siya yung pinakaunang kinoronahan na Miss World. Na nakorona na nga siya pa din yung siya din yung host. So nakakatuwa na nag-host siya na nakakorona siya noong 2014. Tapos tsaka niya nilagay, pinatong yung corona niya doon sa And after that, 2014, up to now, hanggang ngayon, no? Si Julia Morley, kinukuha pa rin siya bilang isang host. Na nagtataka ang mundo, bakit ganun? Ganun din si Kylie Verzosa sa Miss International. So anong meron ng mga ito, mga Pilipina na to? Meron in-interview noon, ewan ko kung Esther yung pangalan noon, isang description niya lang sweet ang mga Pilipina. Mapuso ang mga Pilipina. Hindi sila, they don't count the things that they do for other people. If you remember how Pia Wurtzbach behaved when the crown was finally given to her, and then she was trying to approach yung nanalo, yung si Miss Colombia noon, tapos she was shoved off, no? And then yung assistant niya na Black American, kailangan na lang pumunta sa kanya na dalhin niya na siya backstage kasi sabi niya nung interview, ako na yung nasasaktan para sa kanya kasi nire-reject na siya. Pero she was still trying to get into the circle of the South American beauty titleists, no? Tapos doon na lang siya pinaiyak doon sa backstage. So anong meron dito sa mga Pilipino na to? Parang alam ng buong mundo na isa sa buhay araw-araw sa Pilipinas, pero parang walang malay ang Pilipinas sa kanya o ang Pilipino sa kanya. Ito, simulan na natin. Ang unang nagbigay ng aral sa loob ay si Padre Leonardo Mercado noong 1970s. Nakita niya na ang loob ay hindi yung konsepto niya o kayang kahulugan niya, hindi lang akma sa kanya sa Katagalugan, kundi may nakita siyang pagkakapareho sa salitang nakem ng Ilocano at ng buot ng Bisaya. May nakikita niya dito. These affinities, sabi niya, point out to a reality that indicates who or what the Filipino is in his totality. Thinking, feeling, and doing. Parang sinasabi niya na posible pala magkaroon ng pagkakaisa sa Pilipinas. Bakit hindi natin i-discover ito? Ang lengguwahe natin, ang mga lokal na wika natin, merong pagkakapareho dito. Kung hindi tayo magkakapareho ng mga ideya or whatever, kasi sabi nila archipelagic mentality daw tayo, porque mga isla daw tayo, magkakaiba tayo. Parang sinasabi ni Padre Leonardo Mercado na, hey, may nakita akong bago. Here is a thing that can, if I may use the word, affinitize all of us. Because it's a concept that is found in each of our local languages. When I encountered this, I went back to my being in Ibanag or being in Itawit. And lo and behold, I was able to see a counterpart of Loob. Sa amin, Nonot in Itawit and Nono in Ibanag. I have Bicolano friends and it is near the concept of the Visayan buot Sa kanila lang kasi ang tawag nila buot daw. I don't know now. No, correct me if I'm wrong. But these are the things that I have heard when I was still a seminarian, no, when I was doing this research. So these affinities point out, sabi niya, it's very possible. It's very possible, sabi ni Father Leonardo Mercado, a reality that indicates a mindset that is non-compartmentalized. So parang pinakikita dito na ang kabuuan ng Pilipino may sobrang pagkakaiba siya sa makakanluraning pag-iisip. Ang makakanluranin, very compartmentalized yan. Punta tayo sa edukasyon. Ito head, ito heart, ito hand. So kapag gumawa ng lesson plan ang teacher, di ba, meron yung cognitive, affective, psychomotor, mga ganyan. Divided siya. Samantala, pag bumalik tayo sa wika natin, isa lang palang ibig sabihin yan. Non-compartmentalized. Gusto ko ipakita sa inyo dito na merong perspective ang Pilipino sa pamamagitan ng pag-aaral ng kanyang wika o lengguwahe na hindi natin pinapansin. Na siguro dito nagkakaroon ng hidwaan kung anong totoong nangyayari sa buhay at kung anong nangyayari sa classroom dahil hindi natin mapagkaibigan itong dalawang konsepto na to. Kasi ang edukasyon natin may pagka makakanluranin. So pumapatong lang siyang ganun. Kaya siguro kahit ang pananampalataya natin hindi buo at totoo. Kasi nga pumapatong lang yung Western concept dito at saka yung totoong tayo nandito natatakpan. Yung pala, non-compartmentalized yung mindset natin. At sabi ni Father Mercado pa, itong non-compartmentalized mindset daw nating mga Pilipino is what makes us one with the Asian mentality. And that is what I have shown to you in the concept of the Leb. In as much as I told you that Israel was once upon a time, I don't know, geographically, I'm not a historian or whatever, pero nasa Asia siya. So non-compartmentalized. Kung ang puso, ang heart, ang leb sa Hudyo ay yung kabuuan ng isang Hudyo, dito sa atin ngayon, sabi ni Father Leonardo, ang loob ang siyang nagsasabi ng kabuuan ng isang Pilipino. A reality that speaks the Filipino about his totality. Thinking, feeling, doing. I haven't gone into loob as detailed as the one I have done in my local language. But this much I am telling you. I'll give you an example. Thinking. When my people says, natakit yanonot kukan ikaw. Ay, no. Manonot kabit. Manonot kabit. This one is the attack. Cognitive. But when he says, natakit yanonot kukan ikaw, it is affective. But when the Itawit says, oh, nanonot ni abingin, what does that mean? Kapag yung bata, 2 years old, bumisita ka sa bahay at sabi niya, Ma'am, upo po kayo, and tugs along a chair, one Itawit would say, oh, nanonot ni abingin. That's no longer cognitive. That's no longer affective. It is something that is psychomotor. So, nonot for the Ibanag Itawit is the whole Ibanag Itawit in person. See? And therefore, we may say that the loob is the seat of thoughts. Sabihin ng isang Tagalog, ano ba kasi ang niloloob mo? Sabihin mo sa akin kung anong niloloob mo o kung ano ang nasa loob mo. It speaks about thoughts. Speaks about feelings. Ang sama ng loob ko sa iyo, ha? Bakit ginanito mo yung kaibigan ko? A set of actions. Anong tawag natin sa ano? Anong tawag natin sa mga magnanakaw? Yung nagnakaw, the act of ano, masasamang loob. 'Di ba? And therefore, we say loob is the Filipino in his totality. The loob is the Filipino in his totality. And so we say cognitive sa loobin. And so in the affective level, masama ang loob. In the psychomotor, maganda ang loob o magandang loob or kagandahang loob na nakikita natin. Di natin masasabi na magandang loob nito kung wala siyang actions na gagawin. You see? And very, very significant itong picture na to. Kasi tingnan ninyo, hindi masyadong puro yung loob ng Pilipino. Whatever is outside is reflected in the inside. Kaya sabi ng isang author, hindi natin alam kung saan nagtatapos ang labas at ang loob. Kasi parang gumaganon silang dalawa. Sabi ni Father Jaime Bulatao, ang Filipino self daw ay parang sunny side up na yung mga puti niya halo-halo. Pero nakikita mo buo pa rin yung kanyang yelo kahit halo-halo yung kanyang mga puti. Sabi pa rin niya, ang western daw ay parang hard-boiled egg. They live on their own, individuals. Kaya nakikita natin dito parang naaaninag ang labas sa loob ng Pilipino at naaaninag ang loob niya sa labas ng kabuhayan niya. At saan natin nakikita ito? Well, siguro pupunta tayo sa humanities. Like for example in architecture, yung bahay kubo, no, yung sinasabi nilang ano ng Pilipino, totally magkaiba sila ng Western construction. Dito din makikita natin na ang Western construction is very compartmentalized kasi individual rooms. Pero sa Pilipino, yung sa bahay kubo, andun na lahat. Sa gabi, tulugan, pero sa umaga, pwedeng kainan o pwedeng sala. Everything is there. See, kahit yung sa arkitektura din ng mga sinaunang mga Muslims, ganun din halos katulad din ng bahay kubo ang kanilang struktura. Yung bahay na bato na inadapt ng mga Espanyol sa bahay kubo, it's almost the same principle. May mga bahay na bato na napupuntahan ako dito sa Cagayan na may mga individual rooms nga adapting to the Western type of compartmentalization, pero may mga secret doors in between of this na ito kinoconnect niya doon sa kabila. So naiwan pa rin yung pagka-Pilipino ng bahay kubo na nandun kasi kahit individual na yung mga rooms, connected pa rin sila sa isang secret door. No? Sa isang secret door na mismo nandun sa pagitan ng wall ng bawat rooms na yun na individual. Ganun din sa musika. 'Di ba? Sa musika, makikita natin kunyari yan kay Joey Ayala, yung ang lahat ng tao ang lahat ng bagay ay magkaugnay ang lahat. Also the concept of the kundiman. The kundiman is, well, it's a love song, but it's not a love song that is sung to the woman of your dreams, but it is a song that is sung, no, for the bayang minamahal. It's more of a social thing rather than a personal thing. That's why when one sings kundiman, one should not sing it in the bathroom. One should not sing it alone because there is supposed to be a communication between the singer and the audience because the song, the kundiman, is meant for the bayan. It's not meant for a real loved one. So this arose during the Katipunan period when the love for country was at its height. So you see, you do not know where the loob and the labas of the Filipino comes into the fore. There's no clear distinction. Okay. So, and then came after Padre Leonardo Mercado, Reynaldo Ileto developed this concept, as I would say. And he begins to define loob now as it is where the true worth of the person lies. At itong study ni Reynaldo Ileto was centered on the passion, yung narrative ng Passion of Christ during the Lenten season or during the Holy Week. Bakit parang, Father, ang layo naman yata ng pinuntahan ng loob doon? Pinag-aralan niya yung loob kasi dito sabi niyang ganon, iba yung gusto na mangyari ng mga Espanyol kaya binigay nila ito sa mga Pilipino pero iba yung pagkatanggap ng mga Pilipino dito. The Spaniards wanted the Filipino, or the Indios rather, to look at Jesus as someone who is subservient. Subservient, na kahit anong gawin sa kanya, okay lang sa kanya. Perhaps I do not have any historical context of this one, but perhaps my analysis is that the Spaniards wanted to justify yung mga forced labor na ginagawa na. O, kita niyo itong Diyos ninyo. Hindi siya nagko-complain. So they can just do anything about what they want about the Filipinos kasi nga subservient siya. Ito yung Diyos nyo. Nga lang, ang analysis ni Reynaldo Ileto iba. Sabi niya, it's not subservience. Hindi subservient. God ang nakita ng Pilipino kay Jesus dun sa pasyon. Bagkus ang nakita nila ay isang subversive God. So not subservient, but subversive. At ano yung nakita nila doon? Ang mas nakita ng Indios doon sa image ng Diyos na present ng Espanyol sa mga Indios ay na siya ay matapang, na siya ay maginoo, na siya ay buo ang loob dahil siya ay isang tao na ang lakas niya nanggagaling sa loob, hindi nanggagaling sa labas. So two things now are coming into the fore, brute force and inner strength. While this one was used by the Spaniards to justify subservience, the Filipinos, sabi niya, re-read it by looking at the God as not subservient, but as a subversive. One who does things in silence. And one whose strength comes from loob. Kaya kahit anong gawin sa kanya, hindi siya natitinag. Yun ang nakita ng mga Pilipino. Kaya sabi ni Reynaldo Ileto, dahil dyan, dito nakakuha ng inspirasyon ang mga Katipuneros to bind themselves together. And that is why, when we go now to Emilio Jacinto's writing about liwanag and dilim, napakaganda ng mga descriptions doon, no? Ng distinction ng ningning ng panlabas at ng liwanag ng loob. Sabi niya, huwag tayong masilaw sa ningning ng panlabas, which means to say power, which means to say money, which means to say possessions. Huwag tayong masilaw dyan sa ningning ng panlabas. Kasi ang ningning na yan, walang kahulugan. Rather, sabi ni Emilio Jacinto, these are not exact words. I'm just paraphrasing them. Rather, sabi niyang ganon, deal more with the liwanag ng loob. Yung liwanag ng loob na yan, yan ang inspiration na nakuha nila sa katatagan ng Diyos na si Hesu Kristo na present sa kanila ng mga Espanyol. I repeat, subservience on the side of the Spaniards, but on the side of the Filipinos, they saw a subversive God who through silence is going to change the structure of the world, who through the use of non-brute force, of non-violence, is able to change the structure, the political structure of the world. So it's a very beautiful thing, no? That Reynaldo Ileto comes in. So meron ng kay Father Mercado, possibilities lang yung niya doon kasi siya yung isa sa mga pinakauna na nag-deal diyan, no? Ngayon ito binigyan na ng medyo definition ni Reynaldo Ileto. Itong loob is where the true worth of the Filipino lies. Later on in the late 1980s, lumabas itong si Jose de Mesa. He is a lay Catholic theologian and he deals with loob. At itong her ni Reynaldo Ileto, bibigyan niya yan ng kabuuan. And sabi niya, yung her na yan, na hindi masyado, medyo very, very hazy sa definition ni Ileto, binigyan ng concretization ni Jose de Mesa. At ang sabi niya, the core of the Filipino personhood. Pero, tingnan natin hindi niya lang sinabi the core of the Filipino personhood. Meron siyang idinagdag doon, his reality in relation to the other. And that should be underscored. He does not only present loob as the core of the Filipino personhood, but the reality of the Filipino not in relation to himself alone, but in relation to the other. That is a very important descriptive phrase. Because at the core of everything, the Filipino is not alone. In philosophy, we say that to exist is to coexist. Is it not very, very similar to the concept of the Leb of the Jew? The core of the Filipino personhood, his reality in relation to the other. By the way, we digress a little bit. I just remembered one thing about the Spanish, about the Hebrew grammar. When I was studying Hebrew grammar, I was surprised. Very surprised. Sanay tayo sa grammar na first person, second person, third person. First person is I, second person is you, third person is he, she, it. I was totally amazed nung pinag-aralan ko ang grammatical structure ng Hebrew language kasi baliktad. Ang first person sa Hebrew language is he, she, it. At ang third person ay I. Tama si Levinas sa kanyang analysis, that Jewish French philosopher. The Western philosophy, sabi niya, is so egological. Egological means centered on the I. And as a Jew, although he is French, nakita niya yung distinction ng Jewish concept of humanity simply by gathering it from the grammar. He, she, it, you, I. Third person. Pinakahuli ang sarili. Kaya siguro sa Old Testament going to the New Testament, makikita natin doon ang very particular demand ni Yahweh sa kanyang sambayanan. Love the foreigner, love the alien, love the orphan, love the widow, love the least, the lost, and the last. Malaking kasalanan kay Yahweh yan kapag hindi mo ginawa yan. Kasi pala mismo sa struktura ng kanilang lengguwahe, nangunguna ang kapwa. Sa lengguwahe natin, hindi siguro halos kaparehas niya. Pero sa lengguwahe natin, walang diskriminasyon. Ako, ikaw, siya. Doon sa siya na yon, wala siyang distinction ng feminine and masculine, which is very clearly seen in most of the Western languages. Sa Spanish, él is he, ella is she. In French, the he is il, the she is elle. Ganon din sa Latin, il, illa. Very clearly distinguished. Pero sa atin, siya. Minsan nga, kapag nagpe-pertain tayo doon sa mga bagay, sabi, uy, ang ganda niya. Pero hindi tao yung sinasabi natin, yung isang bagay. So there's no discrimination. Walang gender discrimination ang lengguwahe natin. So equality can be easily explained when we go back to our languages. And can you realize now we are analyzing the word loob? And Jose de Mesa says it's the core of the Filipino personhood, but his reality in relation to the other. Very clearly stipulated yan, in relation to the other. It does not only speak about loob as the core of the Filipino person, but in relation to the other. And then we digress a little bit and we go to the father of Filipino psychology, Virgilio Enriquez, and we go to the concept of his kapwa. Kung kay de Mesa, the core of the Filipino personhood in relation to the other. Ano yung other sa Filipino? Kapwa yun. Kaya masarap na pag-aralan ang kapwa ni Virgilio Enriquez. Pero ano ba yung kapwa? Kasi yung ka, lagi nakikita natin yan sa ating salita eh. Kasama, kasambahay, katulong. It's a prefix that is almost everywhere to signify companionship. So, pag sinabi kababayan, bayan yun eh. Katulong, tulong, alam natin yon. Kasambahay, isang bahay, bahay. Clear yung mga root word niya. Pero ano tong kapwa? Ano tong pwa? Yung ka very clear sa atin. Pero ano yung pwa? Ano yung pwa na yan? It's a contracted thing, no? Sa pagmamadali ko siguro sa pag-prepare kanina, nakalimutan ko nilagyan siya ng apostrophe. Pero is P apostrophe wa. pero is a shortcut of puwang. So, ang kapwa ay kapuwang. Fellow space, loosely translated in English. It does not really capture what that means, no? But ka, fellow, puwang, space, so fellow space. So in each of the person, sabi, or each of the Filipinos, sabi ni Enriquez, there is always a natural congenital space for the other. Natural congenital space for the other. And that other is my equal. Siya yung kahati ko. Siya yung, kung i-philosophize natin yung English word na B does half. Siya ang totoong B half ko. B to signify existence and half, of course, kalahati. B half. So the Filipino is a B half. I cannot exist without the other. Laging merong puwang sa akin. At ang pupuno sa puwang na yan ay yung tao na susunod sa akin. So basically, therefore, sa Tagalog, nung ako ay grade 5, may naalala ako sa Filipino grammar na tinuro sa amin. Yung kita at yung kata. Kita, alin na kata. Hindi mo sasabihin, ikaw at ako halika na. Di ba? Tulad din ng I love you. I love you, mahal kita. Doon sa word na kita na yon, nasaan yung I? Nasaan yung you? Kasi kung literal ang translation nun, sasabihin natin, ako, mahal, ikaw. And ako, in Czech yun, no? Ako, mahal, ikaw. Hindi Pilipino yon. Kasi iba yung ako, iba yung ikaw. Pagdating sa expression na I love you, mahal kita. Nawawala na yung I, nawawala na yung you. And that is exactly the concept of kapwa is all about. Kapwa is me in you and you in me. And that you in me is as equal as I am in you. So there's no point of making discriminations or whatever because originally, ang kapwa is all about me and you. Father, bakit paano na yung mga distinctions natin? Ako ay guro, ikaw ay ganito, siya ay janitor. Sa Pilipino, sabi ko kanina, wala yan. What is in the kapwa that makes me look at the other as an equal? Eto na. Sa kalooban ng kapwa, nandun yung generic na tao. Maalala niyo yung sinabi ko sa inyo kanina, nagsalpukan ang dalawang SUV driver at ng jeepney driver at sasabihin niya, hindi porke ikaw ay mayaman, nagaganunin mo na lang ako. Parehas tayong tao. It's an appeal to the kapwa. Huwag mong titingnan kung ano yung mga borloloy na nasa iyo na wala sa akin. Kasi makikita mo talaga ang pagkakaiba natin. Tingnan natin ang pagkakapareho natin is an appeal to the kapwa. And that is what the Filipino is. The equality in the Filipino. See, puwang. There will always be a puwang in the Filipino for the other. I cannot exist without the other. That's why siguro kahit yung mga lola ng lola natin nasa bahay pa natin. Pero siguro medyo nako-contemporanize na rin ang pag-iisip ng Pilipino ngayon at unti-unting nawawala na yung family value na yon nang gusto na natin bumukod na tayo or whatever. Nakakalungkot. Dahil mas naapektuhan na tayo ng movement ng mundo na ginawa ng makakanluraning pag-iisip o pananaw kaysa sa mismo sa mga values natin. So nakakalungkot na medyo nawawala yung mga values natin na ganito. Kasi nagte-take over na yung mga makakanluraning pagpapahalaga. Sana may magawa pang edukasyon natin to save these things. Kasi otherwise, I go back to the things that I have told you earlier. When the language dies, a perspective of truth and reality is lost. Sayang naman yung pwede nating ibahagi sana sa mundo ng mga pilosopo o pamimilosopiya. Just like this one. So, paano natin makikita yung yung equal noon? Sabi ni Father Mercado, ang tanong ni Father Mercado, Ang isang wika ba ay mayaman dahil marami siyang salita para sa lahat ng bagay, o mayaman siya dahil sa kokonting salitang ugat, ang dami-daming naipapanganak at naibubunga ng mga salita pang iba? Very valid question. Is a language rich because it has a lot of words for a lot of things? Or is a language rich because out of very few root words, a lot of words branch out? And his point is, ang lengguwahe ng Pilipino, hindi kung titingnan natin, ikukumpara natin sa makakanluraning lengguwahe, hindi katulad nito kasi masyadong, uh, kung ang batayan natin Western, ang Filipino languages are very poor. Kasi kokonti ang mga salita natin. Pero kapag titingnan natin sa kabuuan mismo ng Filipino wika, mayaman din siya. Yun ang punto ni Father Mercado. Kasi kahit kokonti ang salitang ugat niya, ang daming pwedeng umusbong na salita. And Father Albert Alejo has testified to this by making an A to W glossary of words coming from just one word, loob. Ang dami niyang sinulat, no? A to W yan, yung glossary niya. Lahat yung nakaugat sa salitang loob. Yun ang sinasabi ni Father Mercado. Pero kaya balik tayo kay Virgilio Enriquez. Kaya sabi ni Virgilio Enriquez, balik nga tayo sa wikang Tagalog o kaya sa wika natin. Kasi sabi niyang ganun, ang Pilipino hindi siya mahilig doon sa pinakaugat, kundi binuburloloyan niya yung mga salita niya sa pagdadagdag ng mga prefixes, infixes, at saka mga suffixes. At itong mga ano na to, mga prefixes, infixes, saka suffixes na to, binabago niya ang kahulugan ng bawat salita ng Pilipino. Tulad ng usap is just simply talk. Pero pag dinagdagan mo ng paki-usap, it becomes a request. So it is in the environment, says Virgilio Enriquez, that words begin to change the meanings, and in changing the meaning, they express what is inside of man. And so when we begin to say now, pakikipagkapwa, the interconnectedness is already being suggested and no longer simply a very abstract concept of kapwa in the loob. It produces now an environment that is not harsh, but because of the word paki, it becomes lighter, no? Parang ano lang siya, parang nandadampi lang siya. It's the real way of the Filipino. Hindi siya harsh, kundi ang Pilipino sinasabi niyang lahat circumlocutedly hanggang makaabot siya doon sa katotohanan. Hindi siya mabigat, hindi siya marahas na magsabi ng katotohanan, pero laging parang nakikiusap siya. Yun ang environment niya at yun ang sinasabi ni Virgilio Enriquez sa atin. Kaya equal tayo kasi hindi, kung nag-uusap tayo, see, it's between equals and not between a subordinate and a superordinate. Napansin niyo siguro, sabi din ni Virgilio Enriquez ito, na kapag sinabon mo ang Pilipino sa harap ng mga tao, diyan siya magkakaroon ng sama ng loob. Pero kung the same content na yon, pero sinabihan mo siya na mag-isa siya, tatanggapin niya yon. Bakit? Sabi ko nga kanina, kung yon ang ginawa mo, na nasa harap ng tao, pinagalitan mo siya, ang tingin niya sa sarili niya, mababang uri at ikaw ay nasa taas. Superordinate, subordinate. Pero kapag kinausap mo siya na mag-isa ng masinsinan, ramdam niya na ginagawa mo yon dahil inaalagaan mo siya, dahil mahal mo siya, dahil ang tingin mo sa kanya ay equal, kapwa. Hindi sasama ang loob niya dyan. See? So, unconsciously, because of these foreign incursions, even the attitudes of the West, na-adapt natin, and we keep on hurting each other because we treat one another not as Filipinos, as Westerners do. See? Pero pagdating dun sa lengguwahe natin, sana kung ma-recapture natin ulito, gaganda sana ang ang kapaligiran natin dahil ang mentalidad natin Pilipino, ang pakiramdam natin Pilipino, ang paggawa natin sa mga bagay-bagay ay Pilipino. Tapos dumating si Father Dionisio Miranda at siya ang nagsasabi, nagkaroon siya ng ibang definition sa loob. Ang sabi niya, shared humanity. It's the shared humanity. Yung sabi ko kanina na tao is our generic name. Ang generic name ng Pilipino ay tao. Tao na nakasulat ng hindi small letter T, pero I want to treat it, because this is my notion now, I want to treat it as a proper name, a capital T. It has a face. Kaya nga, pag dinugtong mo sa kapwa yon, it begins to have more meaning. Kapwa, tao. Natanggal na lahat yung mga burloloy na dinagdag ng lipunan sa bawat isa sa atin. Kayamanan, posisyon, kapangyarihan, pagiging pamoso, lahat na yan, tanggal na yan. Ang naiwan lang, what makes us the same. And that is what Father Dionisio Miranda is trying to tell us, is the shared humanity. I in you, and you in me. And then the last is Father Albert Alejo. And this is the deepest. Ang loob, sabi niya, ay kung saan ako kasangkot sa iyo. Hindi mo lang ako kasama. Lahat ng nangyayari sa iyo ay nararamdaman ko. Naiisip ko, nasa loob ng kalamnan ko. Ang pakiramdam na ako ay ikaw at ikaw ay ako. Tayo na ay tumitingin sa iisang mundo ng kahulugan. Sabi niya, napakalalim daw ang salitang kasangkot. Sabi niya, ito daw ang nangyayari sa mga militar na kahit hindi na sila nagsasalita, mata lang nagsasalita. Oy, parang dirty linen, ha? Ang ganda ng dirty linen, di ba? Nandun yung tinatawag nilang mata sa mata acting, no? Nagtitinginan lang silang ganyan, nagkakaintindihan nila. Oh, very Filipino yon. No, very Filipino yon. Yun daw ang nangyayari sa mga militar. Mata lang, alam nila kung anong ibig sabihin. Ganon din daw ang nangyayari sa mga volleyball players, sa mga basketball players na nasa court. Hindi naman sila nagsasalita, pero alam nila kung anong set play. Kasi nga, tumitingin na sila sa iisang mundo ng kahulugan. At kung nangyari yon, sabi niya, hindi ka lang basta kasama, ikaw na ay kasangkot sa akin. So parang entwined na kayo. Yung ibig niyang sabihin is, pag pumunta ka sa isang lugar, kunyari Islams, imposible na pag uwi mo sa inyo, hindi ka babaguhin ng Islam area na yon. Kahit anong gawin mo, sabi ni Father Albert, tangan-tangan sa loob mo, yung mukha ng nanay na naghihirap. Yung mukha ng bata na umiiyak dahil wala na siyang gatas. Yung tatay na 40 years old pa lang, super tanda na siya dahil sa paghihikahos para sa kanyang pamilya. Sabi ni Father Albert Alejo, imposible na pagkatapos nakita mo, na enkwentro mo lahat ang mga tao na to, uuwi ka sa bahay mo ng tulad nung una bago mo sila nakita. Babaguhin ka ng sitwasyon na yon. At ang tawag niya dyan, dahil ikaw ay kasangkot na. Pilitin mo mang tanggalin yan sa loob mo, hindi mo kaya silang tanggalin. Bagkus, pagka umuwi ka nun, mag-iisip ka na kung anong gagawin mo para sa kanila. At yun ang kapangyarihan ng loob. Yung pinakamalalim nun, kapag nararamdaman mo na kung anong nararamdaman ng tao na sa harap mo. Kapag ang pag-iisip niya, naging pag-iisip mo, at yung nananalaytay sa kanyang kalamnan ay nananalaytay na rin sa iyo. Ang pakiramdam na ako ay ikaw ay ako. Diba kasabihan natin, ang sakit ng kalingkingan, sakit ng buong katawan. Ano kayang nangyari sa atin? Bakit kaya nagkakanya-kanya na tayo? Sa totoong buhay naman, eto tayo. May pakialam kayang edukasyon sa atin? Kung paano tayo binigyan ng edukasyon? Kung ano ang tipo ng edukasyong merong tayo? Sabi ni Vicente Rafael, sabi niya, ang tawag niya dyan, pag-e-embalsamo sa loob ng Pilipino. The embalmed loob of the Filipino. Binigyan daw ng anesthesia ang kalooban ng Pilipino. At kapag binigyan ng anesthesia ang kalooban ng Pilipino, tanging sarili lang ang naiiwan. Di kaya yan ang nakikita natin ngayon? Kaya ang daming makasarili sa atin, wala nang pakikipagkapwa-loob o pakikipagkapwa-tao. At nahihirapan na tayo kasi hindi lang edukasyon ang problema, pati ang mass media problema kasi inihihiwalay na tayo sa lahat ng mga pagpapahalaga na meron tayo. Titingnan na lang natin ang mga kabataan ngayon. At kung paano tayo pinalaki nung unang panahon. Lalo tayo na nasa 50s and above. Masyadong iba na ang bata ngayon. Oo, tama. May mga generational differences, no? Traditionalist, Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, Gen Centennial Generation, tapos mamaya nandiyan na yung Generation Alpha, etc. Okay, fine. Pero hindi mo matanggal ang pagka-Pilipino ng isang Pilipino. The perspective in which he looks and perceives at things will always be in him. Kahit pumunta siya sa ibang lugar, babalik at babalik pa siya doon sa pinanggalingan niya. Hindi mawawala yon. Pero unti-unti na siyang nawawala dahil nakakasanayan na niya ang hindi siya. At yan ang napakalungkot ngayon na nangyayari sa Pilipino. Kaya siguro wala tayong pakialam sa isa't isa. Kaya ang ganda ng talakayan na to kasi binabalik sa atin kung ano ba talaga tayo na sa kaibuturan ng ating loob pala nandun ang ating kapwa-tao. Na bago ko ibigay sa isang tao yung ayuda, nakita ko siyang una sa kalooban ko, kaya nga yung kamay ko biglang umabot sa kanya. Hindi yung nakita ko siya sa labas, kaya inabot ko sa kanya yun. Hindi. Unang nakita ko siya sa loob ko kasi siya ay ako at ako ay siya. Yun ang ibig sabihin ng utang na loob. Ang utang na loob ay hindi isang utang na binabayaran. Ang utang na loob ay hindi nanggagaling sa pinagbibigyan. Ang utang na loob ay galing sa taong nagbibigay. This is my original concept already. Utang na loob is not in the given. Utang na loob is in the giver. When I see the other as one who is deprived, I should look at him as myself being deprived. That's why utang ko sa kanya, natutulungan ko siya para maiangat uli siya na katulad ko bilang isang kaparehas. Kasi sa lahat ng mga nangyayari sa buhay niya, ibinaba siya ng lahat ng kapahamakan, lahat ng kapighatian, lahat ng mga kalungkutan, ibinaba siya. So ang meron ngayon, inequality. When I reach out to the other person by using utang na loob, I bend so that he is able to rise up. And in me bending and in him rising up, holding his hands, equality is thus again restored. Malaki ang utang natin sa bawat isa dahil hindi tayo nabubuhay ng nag-iisa. We are incomplete and therefore we can only be complete just like the Jews because the other is there to complete us. It's an irony that I can only be complete if I begin to be the other and the other begins to be me. Kaya tandaan natin, sa lahat ng mga movies, pelikula natin, Sharon Cuneta or whatever, lahat ng pinanood mong movie, ito yon. Mayaman ka man, malaki man ang bahay mo, lahat meron ka ng kotse, pero dahil naging masama ang ugali mo, dahil sa kayamanan at kapangyarihan mo, lahat ng tao sa bahay mo lalayasan ka. Anong sinasabi ng pelikulang Pilipino? Bandang huli, ang kasiyahan ay nasa baryo. Wala sa kayamanan, wala sa kapangyarihan, wala sa lahat ng idinudulot ng mundo. ang saya ng Pilipino nakasalalay sa kaugnayan ng bawat Pilipino. At yan ang kailangan natin i-retrieve in our education, in anything that we do. Because until we cannot do that, we are slowly ceasing to be the Filipinos that we are. And when that day comes, my dear professors, my dear teachers, my dear coordinators, that would be the saddest day, especially for me, whose advocacy is going back to the roots. And so, as an end, we listen to this modern or very contemporary song that still speaks about us being Filipinos.